Hey, what's up, everybody? The last Shane says before the NFL draft. Not the last Shane says, though, at least that I know of. I think I'm going to keep going. Anyway, last Shane says before the NFL draft. By the time you're watching this, draft might have kicked off. First round might be in the books, or the draft will be within 24 hours. Either way, NFL draft is coming. Last week, I talked about some things that I was hoping to see come out of the NFL draft for fantasy purposes, obviously. And this week, what I'm going to do is, for fantasy purposes, talk about some things that I hope don't happen in the NFL draft. The very first thing, just diving right into it, the very first thing I hope that does not happen is a tight end getting drafted to Indianapolis. That would be a horror show. Now, there have been a lot of mocks where either Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland go to the Colts. Please do not let that happen. I haven't really seen any mocks where they draft tight end in the second, third, or anything like that. But generally, I'm focused on the first when I'm reading mocks anyway. But anyway, a lot of Tyler Warren, a lot of Colston Loveland being mocked to the Colts. Bad thing, right? And it's not just bad because Anthony Richardson's bad at football as a quarterback. He is. He's absolutely terrible. He's an absolute trash can. It's a shit show when he's back there. But more importantly, for this conversation, the Colts do not like throwing to tight ends for some reason. Last year, they had the fourth fewest total targets to tight ends in the league. 75 total targets. Not just one tight end, right? Not 75 targets to one tight end. That's all their tight ends. Mo Alley-Cox, Kyle Granson, a couple other garbage bags in there. 4.4 targets per game. The 15.3 target share to tight ends was the fifth lowest in the league. Now, partly that could be because they threw to wide receivers at the 11th highest rate last year. They actually have a very solid wide receiver room with Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, and Alec Pierce. And I, Mitchell, you do not join that conversation because you're not very good based off what we've seen last year. It was actually worse in the 11 games that Anthony Richardson started. In those 11 games, right, they had 3.3 targets per game to the tight ends. Okay, the single high, the most targets in one game for tight end to the position, not even just a single tight end, but the position itself was 6 targets. That happened once. 2 other times they targeted the tight end position 5 times. But on average, 3.3 per game. There was a lot of 2s and 3s in there. A lot of games where they just targeted the tight end either twice or 3 times. And again, that's not just one tight end. That's all the tight ends, right? So just divide that tree up into 2, or that pie up into 2. No tight end saw more than 4 targets in any game last year. Not one tight end. That is impressively bad. Now, there is the possibility that Daniel Jones will take over as the quarterback, right? Because they did sign him. There's going to be an open competition. I don't know why I air quoted it. That's the word on the street, that there's going to be an open competition. And if you do look at Daniel Jones's time with Evan Ingram, right? Specifically Evan Ingram, because he was a pass catching tight end receiving weapon from 2019 through 2021. He did target the tight end position at a 19.6% rate. Now, that's really good. That's a really good rate. That's a good rate. It's not elite, but it's a very good rate. The thing is, though the target shares were fine during that period, Evan Ingram only finished as a top tight end once in his rookie year. In 2020, he finished as the tight end 18, and then in 2021, he was the tight end 23. So even though the targets weren't coming, or the targets were coming at a decent rate, he wasn't hyper targeted, and they didn't turn into production. And I should note also, looking at the games Daniel Jones played versus the games he didn't play, it could be just that Evan Ingram earned those targets on his own. 19.6% of the target rate to tight ends, Daniel Jones targeted Evan Ingram 19.6% of the time when he played. When he didn't play, it was 18% of the time. So Evan Ingram might have just earned those targets. Now, obviously, Kyle Granson sucks. Mo Alley-Cox is terrible. Every tight end they have in that room is just absolutely god-awful. Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland are different, but we've seen tight ends that were talented before coming to the league into a situation where they haven't succeeded because the teams just don't throw to them. I believe Eric Ebron might have fallen under that category, but, Kyle Pitts, just saying. So please don't draft a tight end. Indianapolis, go away with that. Okay, another thing we do not want to happen. We do not want any wide receivers, any whatsoever that could have any chance of being drafted in the first or the second round of your rookie drafts being drafted to three teams, maybe more, but specifically these three teams. Los Angeles Rams. Why? They can concentrate their targets between two wide receivers. Last year, when it was Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, 56% of their targets went to the wide receiver position, right? Sounds pretty good, except, excuse me, let me rephrase that. 56% of the targets went to Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, not the position, just those two dudes. Just those two dudes. That's a lot. And they're replacing Kupp this year with Davante Adams, who's a better target getter than Cooper Kupp was last year. Last year, Davante Adams had a 30% share. Cooper Kupp had a 26% share. You do the math, that would mean if he sticks around there, that could be 60% of the targets going to two dudes, Adams and Puka. I looked at the third most targeted wide receiver in LA in the past 2 years since Puka's been there. Last year, it was Demarcus Robinson, and he had 64 targets and finished as the wide receiver 70. Oof. In 2023, it was Tutu Atwell. Yeah, Tutu Atwell with 70 targets, and he finished as the wide receiver 69. Not nice. Please don't draft a wide receiver in Los Angeles. Second team, Philadelphia. Please do not draft a wide receiver there. If they do, you will kill any value they could have had, any hope they could have had. Again, Philadelphia concentrates their targets between two wide receivers. Last year, 64% of their targets were concentrated between A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. 64%. That is absurd. The third most targeted wide receiver on the team was Jahan Dotson with 33 targets. And he turned that into a wide receiver 17. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Wide receiver 117. I don't even know what that is. Like, I don't know if that's like a wide receiver 10. I think that's a wide receiver 10. I'm not sure what that is. It's so low that I don't even know what it is. It's way beyond anything that's useful. Not a one-year aberration. 2023, when Devonta and A.J. Brown had a 51% target share. So it was even lower than last year, significantly so. They still didn't target the third wide receiver. Quez Watkins was the third most targeted wide receiver on the team. He had 21 targets. Not great, Bob. And finished as the wide receiver 100. He had more splash plays. That's how he outscored Jahan Dotson on less targets. Now, Quez was a big play guy on those 21 targets. Anyway, don't want the Eagles to draft anything remotely resembling a wide receiver, tight end. We'll go watch last week's episode. There is a tight end I like, Elijah Aurora. Cincinnati, this is the third team. Last year, 52% of their targets went to Chase and Higgins. Their third most targeted wide receiver was Andre Yosavash. He had 61 targets and was the wide receiver 74. In 2023, it was only 43%, right? Now, some of that might have had to do with the fact that Higgins was hurt during games and left games early. He had some weird stuff going on in 2023. Anyway, it was 43%, still, pretty high. So Tyler Boyd actually did pretty well. He had 98 targets. The thing is, that only worked out to a 16% target share and a 50 wide receiver 56 finish. 2022 was similar for Tyler Boyd. He did see 83 targets, but only had a 14% target share. So that's more that the Bengals were throwing a lot, period. Not that Boyd was getting a high target share. And again, 2023, it was a little weird with Higgins coming in and out of games. So we do not want the Rams, Eagles, or Cincinnati Bengals to draft any wide receiver. If they want to draft a wide receiver in the 7th round, cool. I wasn't going to draft that guy anyway, but I need them to stay away from any wide receiver. Noel, Higgins, it doesn't matter. Just any wide receiver that could have first 2 rounds draft capital in our rookie drafts. Okay, last thing, and then we'll get this wrapped up. Emeka, Egbuka, or Luther Burden, I would prefer and strongly do not wish, and it would be a nightmare if those gentlemen went to the Ravens or the Packers, either team, like either player to either of those teams. Now, Egbuka, best I could tell, digging through some things online, he had a 70% slot rate during his college career. That's a lot. Luther Burden, 60% slot rate during his college career, at least from what I could find online. If that's wrong, tell me in the comments. Cool. But that's what I saw online. Checked a couple different sources, PFF and CBS, a couple other sites. Anyway, so why not the Ravens? The Ravens ran the 11 personnel at the lowest rate of any team last year, just 28% of the time. So that means they were running 2 wide receiver sets a lot. And when you run two wide receiver sets, what comes off the field? The slot receiver, typically. Now, Egbuka could kick out to Z, right? Because he did do that with Ohio State last year. I don't know if he will, and I'd rather not take that risk. But even if he did, the other problem is that Baltimore averaged only 27.5 pass attempts last year. That sucked. Second fewest in the league. And they have Zay Flowers, who his production might have been middling, but his target concentration, his target vacuuming, his ability to earn targets is pretty good. 24% target share as a rookie, and then 26% target share as a sophomore last year. So I do not want the Ravens touching either of those dudes. As for the Packers, why not the Packers? First of all, they have a slot receiver. Zay Flowers' slot rate was something around 30% last year. It wasn't absurd. So that wasn't really a concern for me, to be honest with you. But Packers, on the other hand, they have a slot receiver. Jaden Reed ran 64% of his passes out of the slot last year. That's a lot. That's a lot, especially if you're going to add two receivers that have largely played slot in college. Green Bay also had the third fewest pass attempts per game in 2024 with 28.4 per game. And finally, I'm just going to go ahead and share the screen. Trust the Trinity, right? Trust the Trinity. Let's look at the Packers right here last year. Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft, Dontavian Wicks, and Christian Watson. I got the biggest pass catchers, the most targeted pass catchers on the team. You have, let's see here, Dontavian Wicks, Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed. All these dudes below wide receiver 3 thresholds. Tucker Kraft, you can just disregard it. He is a tight end. Maybe I shouldn't even included him. But either way, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, and who was that? Dontavian Wicks, all below the wide receiver 3 threshold. And then Romeo Doubs, actually low-end wide receiver 1. But you do notice that the furthest right on this, Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, both below the regression line. It makes me wonder, is this a is this a Love, is this a Jordan Love issue, or is it just that the wide receivers are bad? It's probably a little bit of both. Some of it is that Jordan Love isn't particularly great. I like Jordan Love fine enough. He's adequate, but it's just a cluster over there, right? There's just, you could see again, looking at that Trinity score, there's not a lot to hold on to, except that the highest end to the right, both below the regression line, not great. Everybody to the left of that, wide receiver 3 or worse usage. That's it. That's all I want. That's not all I want, but that was just 3 things I thought I'd go with, right? If I wake up on Friday to see that a tight end was drafted in Indianapolis, I'll wake up in a cold sweat. If a wide receiver that has a chance to be drafted in the first or second round of our rookie drafts is drafted to LA, Rams, not Chargers. Chargers would be fine. To the Rams, the Eagles, or the Bengals, that will suck. I will scream in my sleep. I will call that a night terror. Finally, Emeka Egbuka or Luther Burden to the Ravens or the Packers. Please don't do it. It scares the living shite out of me. So what about you? Let me know in the comments, what are your biggest nightmares? What are you scared of coming out of this draft? What don't you want to happen? Appreciate it. Make sure you have subscribed to this channel. Make sure you give us some likes. If not my show, like other people's shows. Hit us up in the comments and make sure you stay here for the NFL draft, and then check us out on Big Dog Ray's channel, Ray GQ's channel, for the actual live draft. We'll be on this channel prior to the draft and after. So appreciate everybody watching. Hope you enjoy the draft. Have a great night and week and everything.